Welcome, everyone, to episode 6 of Seek, Search, Succeed, a podcast dedicated to helping sales enablement pros find new roles. Today, I'm joined by Crystal Nikosey, Phoenix chapter lead of Women in Sales Enablement, co-host of the Sales and Enablement podcast, and voted one to watch by Sales Enablement Collective for 2023. Crystal, thanks for joining.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here.
This is going to be so much fun. So you are a sales enablement pro who is transitioning to a new role. But before we jump into that, when you're not enabling sales teams, who are you? What are you about?
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that about me. So I am a Phoenix native. I'm actually a third gen Arizonan, and that's really rare. We get a lot of people moving here from, the Midwest or the Northeast, because although our summers are incredibly brutal, our winters are more like mild summers. So we get a lot of transplants. I'm a mother of 3. I have a 22-year-old, which a lot of people are like, what? You have a
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's okay.
I wasn't 12, I promise. I like to think I just look a little younger. A 16-year-old and a 10-year-old. And yeah, very, my whole family is here in Arizona. We spend a lot of time together, and yeah, just a lot of fun.
I wanted to jump in on a lot of people that watch this show are looking for a new role or transitioning to a new role, or maybe just found one or just lost the role that they're in. And a lot of people feel alone in that process. How has it been for you as you're transitioning to a new role? What has it been like?
Yeah. I went through a lot of different emotions. I think, at the very beginning, for me, the company that I was working for merged with a much larger organization, our largest competitor. And, in any merger, there are redundancy of roles. And so my role was eliminated along with my entire team, really. And so, it was like, and a lot of other people in the organization were laid off at that time as well. So, when you first get the news, it's like a little bit of denial. You could be like a little angry. You're just processing it all, right? And then, after a couple of weeks, I think, once it set in, then it was like, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start looking for roles. I've really established myself in this space. I know I can do it. I'm a great enabler, and I know, companies would love to have me. Right. And then you go out and you start, networking, you start applying to these jobs, and you're seeing that there's hundreds of people who are applying for these same roles. Right.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, it says like this many people like you applied, or there's one thing they have that says like, here's how qualified you are compared to the other people that applied.
Yeah.
That's not a good look for me, at least.
And yet, and those statistics at the bottom, actually, a lot of times, I'm usually like top 10%, top 25%. But even then, it's like at the very top, you can see how many total applicants there have been. And there isn't an enablement role that I actually applied to where there was any less than 100. So
many
in
people.
most cases, it's like 200. Some it's above that. And if it's a really desired role, right? Because so many enablers right now are out of work because of these massive layoffs in tech. So once I started really getting going and started applying, and I started getting these auto rejection emails, and I'm like, what? Like, I literally fit every single thing that you're looking for.
You
like,
don't at least want to talk to me and just hear maybe about what I got.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how could you not? I'm going through this whole thing in my head, right? And so, once you start going through that process, and it becomes like, just that constant rejection. It puts you into another mindset. And that's the scary one, right? That's the one that I really, really struggled with for a few weeks. I found out at the end of February that I was laid off, and my official last day was March 1st. So, you go through this process, and the scariest part of it all is when you start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt your capabilities. You start questioning whether or not enablement is I did all these things, and you start questioning whether or not enablement is the right space for you, and if you should be doing something else. I mean, at some point in my job search, I really started wondering, should I go back to sales? Should I be an IC? Should I just, be a sales leader? Like, is that what I should do? This, enablement, it's crazy right now. And so,
It's so interesting you say that because I've always thought, like my background is in car sales. I sold used cars for like a decade. And I always think to myself, I see people getting laid off. I talk to people on the show that have recently been impacted by layoffs. And I'm like, do I just go back to used car sales? Like it's so competitive to find the right role in enablement. But I don't know if that's a healthy thought to like to not trust yourself and not trust that you are capable and you can do these things and you're qualified.
yeah, that is the, that's the illusion, right? That's the illusion that your mind creates. And along with, all of those feelings, you at home, you start to get really down and you can get into, a real hole that is just very difficult to climb your way out of. And just because I believe in full transparency and I like being, as vulnerable as I can and as authentic as I can, for about a period of 3 weeks, I spent a good portion of my time in bed or on the couch. And I stopped even really applying for roles. I would look, but I quickly just, shut the laptop. I was canceling a lot of my meetings that I had set up, because a lot of appointments that I set up are usually newer-ish enablers who see my content, or they, for one reason or another, they want to connect and just have a chat, and I love doing that. I love doing that on any day of the year, but during this time I was like, I just don't have it in me. I
You need some
don't
you
have
time
it.
too, like to process all the stuff that's happening.
Yeah. And at first I felt horrible about having to reschedule and cancel. It was tough. Those 3 weeks were tough. And then, there's the financial pressure, right? In the States, our healthcare system is nuts. And so if you don't have healthcare, it's very, very difficult. And so depending on what your severance package was when they laid you off, you're like, okay, this stress is a lot. And I can't even imagine for like single parents. My husband is amazing, and is incredibly, incredibly helpful. But I can't imagine single parents having to go through something like this. It's so much. And so I went through that really deep period. And then I started to come out, and then I started to be much more active, but that was just my process. And I started implementing a lot of new things in my life that I have been long overdue. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, that's really what the whole job search thing has been like.
Yeah, it's a process, and I started following you because of the mental health content that you publish, which I love, and I want to talk about that a little bit. Um, my like personal therapy journey, one thing my therapist taught me was that all involves loss, even if it's a good thing or a bad thing. At the end of the day, you have to lose something, and losing your role, losing your insurance, losing your sense of value, you're losing a lot of things as this change goes on, and you got to process all those changes at once, and it can be a lot. So when you first learned you're going to be impacted by the restructuring, did you go right to like LinkedIn and change your status to open to work and talk about it, or was it more of a personal thing for you at first? What was it like in like the first 48 hours?
Yeah, no, the first 48 hours, I think I was in sort of shock a little bit. I didn't really do anything. I didn't put anything out there on social media. I just sort of stepped away for the first few days and tried to absorb it, I think. And I honestly, I'm an optimist. And I like to call it an optimistic realist. So I felt that, honestly, I felt at that time, I was like, I'll be able to get something really quickly. Like it's not going to be a big deal. I'm going to take this time to kind of process. And that's what I thought. First 48 hours. I don't think I put anything out there on LinkedIn. Maybe it was like a week later. And it wasn't even some big drawn out thing, which I love when people, post their full range of emotion. Don't get me wrong. I had just felt like I didn't want to do that because I just wanted to quickly go at it. So I put a one pager together, of myself, and, I listed like 15 of my top skills, put that I was open for a new role, that I was a global enablement leader, and, made sure that I put all the ways to contact me. I have my Instagram page, your favorite enabler. I put that on there, just different ways that people could quickly take a look at that one pager, that PDF that I created on Canva. And, if they had something, great. But yeah, I didn't put it out there right away. It took me a little bit.
I'm glad you brought up that post you made on LinkedIn because I saw that on your featured stories. If you guys are looking for new roles, when we talked to Rachel a couple weeks ago, she had made a really cool banner on Canva for her LinkedIn. I just had her contact info to make it really easy for people to contact her. And Crystal, I like what you did. If you guys check out Crystal's LinkedIn, you'll see on her featured stories, there's a one pager, highlights your skills, kind of a little bit about you, the things that you're good at. And that's a really cool way that if people are going through and they see so many profiles are open to work, but you don't really know what that person's skill set is, it's a really cool way to kind of promote yourself. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I opened that, I told everyone that if they wanted, for me to send that over in, a formatable, format, not a PDF, I would be more than willing to do that. And they could just, like a template, and they could just, change some of the things on there. Obviously change the picture, name, stuff like that. But so if anybody wants that, I just reach out to me. I can send it.
Yeah, and Canva, not a sponsor, but we've talked about you twice now. So I don't know if you're feeling crazy. So you're big into mental health, which I love, and was the reason I started following you. So you transition out of your old role. The first 48 hours are over. You're in this journey, not thinking about the process of applying for jobs. Like, what kind of stuff were you doing just to help get yourself through the days, keep yourself busy, keep your mental state strong? What kind of tips worked for you that you could share with other people?
Yeah. I think so. I want to preface this with saying that I did go through a period where, I went from, like I said, the bed to the couch, and bags of popcorn and loads of streaming, of just binging TV shows. I went through that period. So I didn't automatically jump into, I'm going to start doing all of this productive stuff for myself. I didn't do that. And in fact, I really just started thinking about this a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, where I thought, I have a lot of work that I want to do. A lot of people, that's where they start. They start, doing the whole reflection thing and self-reflection. And so I started doing a little bit of that, downloaded some different apps as far as meditation and,
Any you recommend for people that are watching?
I like the one that I use is the one by Google. I don't think it's Breathe. What is
There's
it called?
Calm. I'm familiar with Calm.
I don't use Calm. It's I mean, I could look it up. Like I'm pretty sure it's like it's Breathe, but let me just double check and I'll tell you. But it's the one by Google, and they're actually offering a free year to be able to use this. And it is called Balance. I'm sorry, it's called Balance.
Balance.
And it's a Google app, and a free year. So I started using that for the meditation. And one other thing that I did decide to do is reduce my time on social media. That is probably the one thing, and it's not even so much about, being on there for personal reasons. So much of what I do on social has to do with my content. I'm constantly creating stuff for Instagram. That takes time, just the reels and editing and, putting everything together. And then also for LinkedIn, LinkedIn has been the #1 platform for me, as far as, putting that content out, having a large network of other enablement people. And then I do my podcast, and LinkedIn is where we go to, book our guests. And it's tough, right? To not deal with that, to not have that. So I set aside 2 times throughout the day that I'm going to go on LinkedIn, and the morning and the afternoon. But I'm only checking messages. I'm only checking messages. I'm not scrolling through anyone's content. So if anyone sees that I haven't liked your stuff, I'm so sorry, but that is the reason why. So that has been, that's 30 days. I've also restructured my workouts. I've also restructured my diet a bit. So just trying to cover different areas of my life. And I know it sounds so cliche, like when you're feeling like, I'll say when you're feeling like you're in this depressive mode or this hole, or just so much anxiety, and people are suggesting you do these things, the person has to be ready. I had to be ready. Like I said, I was in this state for like, 3 weeks. I know how to get myself, going. I know how to do the healthy things for myself. But when you're not ready, then it doesn't matter. So when you're ready, doing some of these things and really, sticking to those daily habits, is really going to help. It's going to help you to maintain a positive frame of mind. You're going to start feeling good about what you can control, because when you're job hunting, you can't control anything. And if you're not doing things consciously and persistently doing things you can control, the out of control stuff that is out of your hands is going to take over, and it's going to make your life chaotic and feel really out of control.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned like it's your journey. For you or for anyone watching this, like there's no right way to get through what you're going through except for what works for you. So I love that you kind of called that out. I also wanted to ask, you're in a lot of industry groups like Sales Enablement Society and Sales Enablement Collective, and I think a few others. Have you been able to leverage those at all, or how have they helped you kind of through this journey?
So I have definitely been able to leverage some of my connections in those groups, in terms of just support, right? Some of my good friends, I have made better friends during this period of being unemployed than I have in probably, the last year,
Why do you
because
think that is? Was it
I think this, someone who's going through a job search, I think that really resonates with a lot of people. And their empathy comes out, their compassion comes out, and they just reach out to you, and say, hey, how are you doing? Really, how are you doing? And there's a handful of enablers that I talk to almost on a daily basis now, that I didn't really talk to all that often, but I'm talking to them now on a daily basis, and we're keeping each other updated. And, how can I help you? What can I do? And there's not a ton you can do to help them get a job other than maybe sending them, job postings, or being, making a warm introduction or any introduction. But where the support comes in, or where that encouragement really comes in, is that how that person feels on the inside when you're feeling like, I don't know if enablement is right for me. I don't know if I can really do this. That's where it's really touching. Is when you can resonate with someone on that level. And I have definitely found that to be the case with some of the people in my groups. Absolutely.
That's so hard. I don't know if it shows on camera, but I just took like a big gulp as you were talking about that. I hope it doesn't show up. I totally feel that there's the imposter syndrome that goes along with any role that you're in or that you just left. And I go through it a lot coming from a sales background, and my enablement time is very limited. And I'm like, I meet with these enablement people and get to do this fun podcast. And like, I try and share stuff on LinkedIn. And I feel like, who am I? I'm not like qualified to do any of this
Oh my
stuff.
gosh,
But I
yes.
totally get that. Like, if I was applying for a new role and then not hearing things back, I'd be like, well, no one's going to call back because I suck at all this. And I'm just barely faking it now.
I
But
know.
I'm trying my best. But yeah, I really feel that.
Yeah, oh gosh, I can so relate to that. I remember when I first started on LinkedIn, probably about 2 years ago. I decided I'm just gonna make my presence much more known on LinkedIn. And at first, I would type these posts, right? I would create these posts, and after about 5 minutes, if I didn't have any likes on it. I was like, delete it. It's stupid. No one's gonna, nobody cares about what you think, and like, they're going to think you're dumb. You have all of these thoughts going on in your head, and I'm no expert. What do I have to offer? And yeah, your mind can play some really crazy tricks on you. And people ask me, how you got over that, how did you get over that? And I'm like, I just got to a point, like, well, first I will say I started meeting with more enablers, right? I started meeting with those enablers that really resonated with me. One of the first enablers that was like, wow, that is her. That is who I want to be. I love what she's saying. I don't know if you know her, but Adriana Romero. She is, at the time, she was in enablement at a company called Level Jump, who was since bought by Salesforce. And so now she's at Salesforce. But she is just, she looked like me. She was Latina. She, was spicy, and she just wasn't the typical enabler, right? Like, she was a lot more like me, and it resonated. And then, so I met with her, and I was like, okay, game over. Right. And so I was like, and she really helped me to gain the confidence that I needed, as well as John Moore. He was another really big influential enabler in my life at that time. And they both just gave me the confidence that I needed. And then I started to like, well, if I get one like out of this deal, then that's cool. I'm just going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And then it really developed into this whole, branding of myself and, your favorite enabler. And I started the IG, and then I started the podcast. So I totally get all of that. And for anyone who was in that boat, just keep sharing your ideas. Just keep going. It does not matter the number, trust me, the number of likes, the reshares, the comments, that I promise you will come. It will come. Even some of my posts now, people are, I get, some interest from it, but even now I'm like, whatever. And you'll learn, over time, you'll learn your voice, right? You'll learn your brand. And that is so critical, because a lot of people think just because they work for a particular company that they have to only promote that. So they'll reshare a lot of the company stuff, but it's like, no, like you are, yes, you're in enablement for this company, but you have your own thoughts, you have your own, insights. And believe it or not, as a new enabler and versus somebody who's more experienced, I love seeing new enablers post things, because they are looking at things with a fresh set of eyes, right? And that's all, like, for someone who's been in enablement since 2012, like I have, it's like, holy cow, someone who just came into enablement last year, they're looking at things completely different. So it is refreshing. So anyone who is in that same boat, just keep posting, keep sharing, and figure out what your why is, figure out why you're doing it. For me, it was about bringing more awareness to enablement and, talking about how I'd like to do things and why it's impactful. So I knew my why, and people have to know theirs.
So I think it's really interesting what you said about LinkedIn. And I've said this before, but I've heard LinkedIn described as a network of lurkers. And I've had people like, I'll post something that I think is great. No one responds to it. And then I'll see somebody in person like this over the weekend, like, oh, I saw your podcast last weekend. It was really good. I was like, then like my shit. Like, I need interaction.
Oh gosh, I can't tell you how many times that's happened. Like, I won't see any person's interaction with or engagement with my stuff, no likes, no comments, nothing. But then, I'll get a message in my inbox like, oh my gosh, your content is amazing. I love it. And I'm like, I don't remember seeing you like anything,
And you can comment that on the post. It's totally fine.
It happens. It happens. There are definitely people who just don't engage, but they go on and they look for, they just look for great content. And so I take that with a grain of salt. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. How did it help you? We can definitely chat. So yeah, I really try to open my calendar a lot for for booking time for those people who want to have a quick 30-minute chat. It could be something specific about enablement. It could be something specific about an experience they're going through that may be something I posted about. But I do try to open my calendar for those people. So it happens.
Yeah, if you're watching this and you're following Crystal, don't be afraid to reach out to her. And also don't be afraid to comment and like her content because it helps all us out to get more reach.
Yeah, much appreciated. I love the reach. I mean, my why definitely isn't to have anything sponsored or branded. Like I said, it was to bring more awareness to enablement. Yeah, I mean that's really it. So it's if I can help somebody in any way, that's what it's about for me.
I love it. So speaking of helping people, I always like to end on, what's your advice for anyone who's looking for a new role right now? Anything, tips, tricks? What do you want to share with people to help them get through it?
Yeah, so I will share something, that I haven't shared, with really anyone, a handful of people who are in my circle, but I officially signed an offer letter this morning, for a new role. Not going to say the company quite yet, but I'm sure by the time this comes out, everyone will know. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because this opportunity came out of nowhere, literally nowhere. I had no clue like this role was even, I didn't apply to it. It happened where I created a post. I think it was my one pager. I created that. A connection of mine commented, and then she tagged somebody that was at this company and said, hey, check this out. This enabler is like top of the game. Do you have anything? And this person, responded, and we started talking, and then we set up some time to chat. About 6 interviews later, I was offered the role. So my point is that even if you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't see anything, I'm getting auto rejections, I'm not in late stages with any organization, things are going to, I hate to sound cliche, but I really feel like things work out when the timing is right and for the right reasons and for the right organization. So this opportunity is something that touches on so many different elements of who I am. And so I feel like, yes, this came out of nowhere. It's what in sales, what they would call that bluebird, right? So really just, hang in there, do your due diligence, if you need to ask, if you want help on taking a look at your resume, if you want to practice some interview questions, if you want me to take a look at a cover letter, I would be more than happy to do that for you. But yeah, I mean, it's a grind. You got to go through the grind and network. So just make sure that you are checking out who the hiring leader is, check to see if you have any connections that can help you with an introduction. So just work really smart. I started using ChatGPT for a lot of the messages that I was sending to hiring leaders. So, take a look at your prompts. When you use ChatGPT, let that help you as well. So yes, go through all of those things, but even more importantly, you've got to take care of yourself. And that means reducing your stress and anxiety in any way that you can. I know it's hard. It's hard to focus sometimes. It's hard to get out of bed sometimes. Just do as much as you can that day. Focus on that day alone. Even if you have to go hour by hour, focus on that hour of just doing something positive for yourself. Something that's going to help you relax. Because it will happen. It absolutely will happen. You just gotta, you gotta weather it.
It's so amazing to hear that you found an awesome new role that you're going to love. If you guys are watching this and you're still looking for a new role, check out our Seek, Search, Succeed guide. We'll link it in the comments below. Lots of great resources there for job searching. Also, if you're struggling with your mental health, in there is a link to Yale's free course called The Science of Well-Being. It's a great resource to kind of help get your mental state in order. And there's no one to talk to. It's just you and the computer, and it's really easy and free. So I highly recommend that. Huge thank you to Crystal for joining us today, and we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you.